The Miami night pulsed with reggaeton, the bass thumping through Jake's veins as he weaved through the crowded living room, balancing a tray of mojitos. It was Sophia's coworker's 30th birthday, and their Coral Gables home buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses. Jake, a 35-year-old high school counselor, played the perfect host, topping off drinks and cracking jokes to keep the vibe light. His warmth was his trademark. Students at school called him the guy who could fix any bad day. Sophia, his wife of 8 years, thrived in the spotlight, her marketing exec charisma drawing eyes as she told a story about a botched campaign, her hands dancing in the air. Jake caught her glance mid-laugh, hoping for a shared moment, but her eyes slid past him, sharp and distant. He shook it off, adjusting the playlist on his phone to keep the energy high. The room was a blur of movement, friends swaying, ice rattling in glasses, someone shouting about the Dolphins' latest game. Jake leaned against the kitchen counter, pouring himself a soda, when Sophia's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Jake, I'm done. I don't love you anymore." The music didn't stop, but it might as well have. The room froze. A coworker coughed awkwardly into his fist. Another guest, mid-sip, nearly choked on her wine. Jake's hand tightened around the soda can, the cold aluminum biting into his palm. He stood there, rooted, as if the floor had turned to cement. Sophia stared at him, her posture rigid, daring him to respond. The crowd's eyes darted between them, waiting for the next move in a scene no one expected. "Say something," Sophia pressed, her voice louder, edged with impatience. "Or are you just going to stand there like always?" Jake's throat tightened. He wanted to snap back, to ask why she chose now, in front of everyone, to detonate their life. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, he felt the weight of every guest's gaze, pity, curiosity, discomfort. His coworker Maria, who'd known them for years, looked down at her shoes. Even Sophia's best friend, Elena, stayed silent, clutching her drink like a lifeline. He set the soda can down, the soft clink deafening in the quiet. "I need air," he muttered, barely audible, and walked toward the front door. No one stopped him. Not Sophia, not the guests. The reggaeton kept playing, but it felt like a mockery now, each beat pounding against his chest. Outside, the humid Miami air hit him like a wall. He stepped onto the balcony, the glow of streetlights casting long shadows across the tiled floor. The neighborhood was alive, cars humming down the street, a neighbor's dog barking faintly. Jake gripped the railing, trying to steady his breathing. 8 years of marriage, countless fights swallowed, countless nights spent trying to be the steady one, and it ended with a single sentence in front of strangers. "Jake?" A soft voice broke his thoughts. Mia, a single mom from down the block, stood at the bottom of the steps, holding a paperback he'd lent her weeks ago. Her son went to the same school where Jake worked, and their evening walks had turned into easy conversations about books and life. She hadn't been invited tonight, just stopped by to return the book. Her eyes, wide with concern, locked onto his. "I heard shouting. You okay?" He opened his mouth to lie, to say he was fine, but the truth slipped out instead. She just ended it. In there. In front of everyone. Mia's face softened. She climbed the steps, stopping just short of him. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice steady but kind. She hesitated, then set the book on the railing and reached for his hand. Her touch was warm, grounding, the first real thing he'd felt all night. He didn't pull away. That's when the front door swung open. Sophia stood there, wine glass in hand, her posture stiffening as she saw their hands clasped. Her eyes widened, then narrowed, a flicker of something, shock, maybe jealousy, crossing her face. For someone who just declared she didn't love him, she looked like she'd been slapped. She didn't speak, just turned and walked back inside, the door clicking shut behind her. Mia pulled her hand back, startled. "I didn't mean. You didn't do anything," Jake said quickly, his voice firm. "She doesn't get to decide how I feel anymore." Mia nodded, but her eyes darted toward the house, uneasy. "You sure you're okay out here?" "No," Jake admitted, the honesty surprising him. "But I will be." She lingered a moment, then stepped back. "I should go. My son's waiting." She paused, then added, "If you need to talk, you know where to find me." Jake watched her walk down the street, her silhouette fading into the night. The weight of Sophia's words still pressed against him, but Mia's brief gesture had cracked something open, a reminder that he wasn't invisible, not to everyone. He turned back to the house, the music now a dull hum through the walls. He wasn't ready to go back inside, not yet. But as he stood there, the faint rustle of something in Sophia's purse, left on the patio table, caught his attention. It was unzipped, a corner of white paper peeking out. Against his better judgment, he reached for it. Jake stood on the balcony, the Miami night heavy with humidity and the echo of Sophia's words, "I don't love you anymore." The reggaeton from the house party pulsed faintly, a cruel reminder of the life he thought he'd built. Sophia's purse sat on the patio table, unzipped, a white envelope peeking out like a dare. His fingers hesitated, then pulled it free. No name, no address, just a sealed secret. He tore it open, heart pounding, and found a hotel receipt. One guest booked for next weekend under Sophia's maiden name, Lopez. Tucked inside was a scrap of paper in her handwriting. "Jake won't fight for us. I need to feel alive again." The words hit like a punch. She wasn't planning an affair, she was planning an escape. A solo trip to test her heart, to see if she could leave him behind. Jake's pulse raced as he stuffed the receipt back into the envelope. He wanted to storm inside, confront her in front of her friends, let the truth spill out as publicly as her betrayal had. But the weight of the party's silence still clung to him. He needed answers, not a scene. He slipped back into the house, the music louder now, guests pretending nothing had happened. Sophia stood by the kitchen counter, refilling her wine glass, her movements sharp. She didn't see him at first, but when their eyes met, her hand froze mid-pour. "You're back," she said, voice flat, like she was testing him. "What's this?" Jake held up the envelope, his tone low but steady. The chatter around them dimmed as a few guests glanced over, sensing tension. Sophia's jaw tightened. "You went through my purse? You humiliated me in front of everyone." Jake shot back. "I think I'm entitled to know why you're booking hotels under your old name." Her eyes darted to the envelope, then back to him. She set the wine bottle down hard. "Not here," she muttered, brushing past him toward the hallway. Jake followed, the envelope burning in his hand. They stopped in the dim corridor, away from prying eyes. The bass from the living room thumped through the walls. "Explain," Jake said, holding up the receipt. "A hotel next weekend? Jake won't fight for us? What's that supposed to mean?" Sophia crossed her arms, her posture defensive. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" His voice rose, cracking with frustration. "You tell me you're done in front of a room full of people, and now I find this. Were you just going to disappear for a weekend and come back like nothing happened?" She looked away, her breath uneven. "I needed space, okay? I've been drowning, Jake. You're always so calm. So steady. It's like I'm screaming inside, and you don't even hear it." "Drowning?" Jake's voice sharpened. "You think I haven't noticed you pulling away? The late nights at work, the way you flinch when I tried to talk? I've been trying to hold us together, Sophia, while you've been planning to run." Her eyes flashed. "You don't get it. You're the perfect husband, fixing things, making everyone laugh, always there. But I don't feel seen. I feel like I'm fading, and you're too busy being nice to notice." Jake stepped closer, the receipt crumpled in his fist. "So your solution is to book a hotel and write notes about how I'm not enough? You could have talked to me. Instead, you made me feel like I'm nothing." Sophia's shoulders slumped, her voice softening. "I didn't mean to hurt you like that. It just came out last night. I'd been going to this group, women who feel trapped in their marriages. Not because I want someone else, but because I don't know who I am anymore." Jake blinked, caught off guard. "A group? For what, to resent me?" "Not you," she said quickly. "Me. The life I thought I wanted. I booked the hotel to see if I could stand being alone. To see if I'd miss you or if I'd feel free." The honesty stung more than the betrayal. Jake took a step back, the envelope falling to his side. "You were testing us. Without telling me. You let me think I was the problem. I didn't know how to say it," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought you'd just keep being you. Patient. Quiet. I didn't think you'd ever walk away." Jake's chest tightened. He'd spent years swallowing his own frustration, thinking it was love. But now he saw it. She'd mistaken his restraint for weakness, his silence for apathy. You don't get to decide what I feel, he said, his voice low but firm. Not anymore. He turned and walked back to the party, leaving her in the hallway. The guests were still there, laughing louder now, oblivious to the fracture in the air. Jake grabbed his keys from the counter and headed for the door. He needed to clear his head, to escape the weight of her words and the truth in that envelope. As he stepped outside, his phone buzzed. A text from Mia. You okay? Saw you leave. I'm here if you need me. Jake stared at the screen, her kindness a lifeline he hadn't expected. He typed a quick reply, thanks. I'll call tomorrow. And kept walking, the Miami streets alive with late-night energy. The neon glow of a nearby taco stand flickered, and a group of friends laughed under a palm tree. Life went on, but Jake felt like he was standing still. He ended up at a quiet park a few blocks away, sitting on a bench by a fountain. The water's steady trickle was the only sound breaking the night. He pulled the envelope out again, rereading Sophia's note. I need to feel alive again. Each word cut deeper, not because she wanted to leave, but because she thought he couldn't understand. He'd spent years building a life with her, late-night talks, weekend drives to Key West, quiet mornings over coffee. Had it all been invisible to her? His phone buzzed again. This time, it was his brother Liam. You good, man? Heard there was drama. Jake didn't reply. He wasn't ready to explain. Instead, he pocketed the envelope and stood, the fountain's mist cool against his skin. Tomorrow, he'd face Sophia again. Tomorrow, he'd decide what came next. But tonight, he just needed to breathe. The Miami sun beat down on the Coral Gables block party, a Saturday afternoon alive with salsa music and the sizzle of grilled arepas. Jake stood near a food truck, a cold soda in hand, watching kids chase each other through the crowd. It had been 4 days since Sophia's public declaration and the discovery of her hotel receipt. 4 days since their hallway confrontation, where she admitted to feeling invisible and planning a solo escape. Jake hadn't slept much since, each night replaying her words, I need to feel alive again. He'd moved out temporarily, crashing at his brother Liam's apartment, needing space to think. The block party was a neighborhood staple, and Jake had promised to help with setup before everything unraveled. He could have skipped it, but staying away felt like letting Sophia win, letting her reshape their shared world without him. So he showed up, setting up tables and joking with vendors, his counselor charm masking the storm inside. Sophia was there too, across the street, laughing with a group of friends near a bounce house. She moved like nothing had happened, her voice carrying over the music, retelling a work story with animated gestures. To everyone else, she was the life of the party. To Jake, she was a stranger wearing his wife's smile. He was about to turn away when Mia appeared, holding a lemonade and trailing her 8-year-old son, Lucas, who clutched a soccer ball. Didn't expect to see you here, she said, her tone light but careful. She texted him after the party, offering support, and their brief exchange had been a rare anchor in the chaos. Couldn't hide forever, Jake replied, managing a half-smile. You here for Lucas? And the food, she said, nodding toward the arepa truck. But mostly to get out of the house. You holding up? Jake shrugged, his eyes flicking to Sophia, who hadn't noticed him yet. Trying to figure out what's left to hold on to. Mia followed his gaze, then leaned closer. You don't have to figure it out today. Just, don't let her decide who you are. Her words hit hard. Jake had spent years being the steady one, the fixer, the guy who smoothed over Sophia's edges. But Mia saw him differently, not as a role, but as a person. He glanced at her, then at the crowd. The music shifted to a faster beat, couples spinning into an impromptu dance near the stage. An idea sparked, reckless but clear. Dance with me, Jake said, surprising himself. Mia's eyes widened, but she didn't hesitate, handing her lemonade to Lucas, who scampered off to join his friends. You sure? She asked, stepping closer. Jake nodded, his pulse quickening. I'm tired of standing still. They joined the dancers, the rhythm pulling them into a simple salsa step. Jake wasn't a pro, but he followed Mia's lead, her laughter easing his nerves. The crowd blurred, the music filling the space where his doubts lived. For the first time in days, he felt alive, not like a shadow in Sophia's story. Mia's hand in his was steady, her steps confident, and for a moment, he wasn't the guy whose wife didn't love him anymore. Then he saw her. Sophia, frozen near the food truck, her drink halfway to her lips. Her eyes locked on them, wide with shock, then narrowing into something raw, jealousy, maybe, or fear. The same woman who'd declared their marriage over now looked like she'd lost something she hadn't realized she wanted. Jake held her gaze, not out of spite, but to prove he wasn't invisible. Not anymore. Mia sensed the shift, glancing at Sophia, then back at Jake. "You okay?" she whispered, her steps slowing. "Yeah," he said, his voice firm. "This isn't about her. It's about me." Sophia set her drink down hard on a table and walked away, weaving through the crowd toward the parking lot. Jake didn't follow. He finished the dance with Mia, their steps falling out of sync as the song ended, but the moment lingered. The crowd clapped, oblivious to the silent war that had just played out. Mia stepped back, catching her breath. "I didn't mean to stir anything up." "You didn't," Jake said. "She stirred it up herself." They parted ways soon after, Mia rejoining Lucas, who was now kicking his soccer ball with friends. Jake stayed at the party, helping clean up as the sun dipped low. His phone stayed silent, no text from Sophia, no calls. But as he folded tables, a neighbor handed him a folded note. "Sophia asked me to give you this," the guy said, shrugging. Jake unfolded it, his stomach tightening. Her handwriting was sharp, rushed. "I thought you'd always stay, no matter what." "I was wrong." No apology, no explanation, just a confession that felt like a blade. He tucked it into his pocket, the weight of it heavier than the hotel receipt. That night, at Liam's apartment, Jake sat on the balcony, the note in one hand, a beer in the other. The Miami skyline glittered, but his thoughts were on Sophia's face at the party, crumbling, exposed. She hadn't expected him to move forward, to claim a moment for himself. For years he'd been the one to bend, to wait, to fix. But dancing with Mia hadn't been revenge. It was defiance, a refusal to let Sophia's choices erase him. His phone buzzed. A message from Liam, "You good?" Saw Sophia peel out of the party like she was running from something. Jake didn't reply. Instead, he thought about Mia's words, "Don't let her decide who you are." He was starting to see it now. His life didn't have to end with Sophia's love. But what came next was still a question he wasn't ready to answer. Jake woke to the hum of Miami's morning traffic filtering through Liam's apartment window. The block party was 3 days ago, and Sophia's note, "I thought you'd always stay, no matter what," still sat on the kitchen counter, its words looping in his mind. He hadn't seen her since she stormed out, her face a mask of shock after watching him dance with Mia. The memory of that moment, his hand in Mia's, the music pulling him forward, felt like a crack in the wall he'd built to survive Sophia's distance. But now, the weight of her hotel receipt and her confession about needing to feel alive pressed harder. He was pouring coffee when his phone buzzed. A voicemail from Sophia, left at 2 a.m. Her voice was shaky, rushed. "Jake, I'm at my sister's. I left something for you at Liam's. You'll understand when you see it. I'm not asking you to come back. Just, please watch it." The message cut off abruptly, leaving Jake staring at his phone, the coffee forgotten. He found the package later that morning, slipped under Liam's door. A small padded envelope, no label, just a flash drive inside. Jake hesitated, then plugged it into Liam's laptop. A video loaded, 5 minutes long. Sophia sat on their bed, her hands clasped tightly. "If you're watching this," she began, "I'm trying to let go. I've been going to a support group, not for cheating, not for leaving, but for women who feel invisible in their marriages. I didn't know how to tell you I was fading. I blamed you for not seeing it, for being so steady. The hotel was a test. Not of you, of me. Could I be alone? Would I miss you?" She paused, her voice breaking. "When I saw you with Mia dancing, you looked alive. I hadn't seen that in you for months. It wasn't jealousy, it was fear. I realized I'd been starving you of something I couldn't give. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know I broke this, not you." The screen went black. Jake sat back, his chest tight. The video wasn't an apology. It was a confession, raw and unfiltered. Sophia hadn't cheated, hadn't fallen for someone else. She'd been unraveling, and instead of talking, she'd pushed him away, punishing him for her own emptiness. He wanted to be angry, but all he felt was a hollow ache. For years, he thought his patience was love, his silence strength. Now he saw it had been a trap for both of them. He needed air. He drove to a quiet cafe near the botanical gardens, a place he and Sophia used to visit when they were still building dreams together. Mia was there when he arrived, sipping an iced coffee, her son Lucas at a nearby table sketching dinosaurs. She'd agreed to meet after a quick text, no pressure, just a chance to talk. "You look like you haven't slept in a week," she said, sliding a chair out for him. "Close enough," Jake said, managing a faint smile. He told her about the video, the support group, the hotel. Not to vent, but to make sense of it. Mia listened, her eyes steady, not judging. "She's trying to explain," Mia said when he finished. "But it sounds like she's explaining to herself, not you." Jake nodded. "That's what hurts. I spent years thinking I was holding us together, but she was already halfway out the door." Mia leaned forward. "You don't have to be the one who fixes everything. What do you want, Jake?" The question landed hard. He hadn't asked himself that in years. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I'm done waiting for her to decide my worth." Mia smiled, soft but encouraging. "Good. Start there." They talked longer, about her divorce, her focus on Lucas, the way she'd rebuilt after her own marriage crumbled. Her strength wasn't loud or flashy, it was quiet, deliberate, like a steady current. Jake felt lighter, not because she offered answers, but because she didn't expect him to have them yet. Back at Liam's, Jake found his brother sprawled on the couch, scrolling through his phone. "You talked to Sophia yet?" Liam asked, not looking up. "No," Jake said, sitting across from him. "But I'm not sure I need to." "Not yet." Liam raised an eyebrow. "You're different. Less heavy." Jake shrugged. "I'm trying something new. Not being her anchor." That afternoon, Jake called a therapist he'd found online, booking a session for the next day. It wasn't a grand gesture, just a step. He'd spent too long absorbing Sophia's moods, thinking it was his job to keep her steady. The therapist's office was a start, a place to unpack the years he'd spent folding himself smaller to fit her needs. By evening, his phone buzzed again. A text from Sophia. "I'm staying with Elena for a while. I cancelled the hotel. I'm sorry." Jake stared at the message, waiting for the urge to reply, to fix, to smooth things over. It didn't come. Instead, he set the phone down and stepped onto the balcony, the Miami skyline glowing under a fading sunset. For the first time, he didn't feel like he was running from something, or toward it. He was just standing, breathing, existing for himself. But the next morning would bring a new twist, one he hadn't seen coming, and it would force him to confront the truth about Sophia's choices in a way he wasn't prepared for. Jake woke to the buzz of his phone on Liam's coffee table, the Miami sunrise cutting through the blinds. A week had passed since Sophia's video confession, where she admitted to attending a support group for women feeling invisible in their marriages and planning a solo hotel stay to test her heart. Her words, raw, unfiltered, still echoed, "I broke this, not you." Jake had spent days wrestling with them, balancing anger, grief, and a faint spark of clarity. He'd started therapy, a small step to untangle the years he'd spent molding himself to Sophia's needs. Now, a new message waited from an unknown number. It was Elena, Sophia's sister. "Meet me at the cafe by the botanical gardens. 10 a.m. I have something you need to see." Jake arrived at the cafe, the same spot he'd met Mia days earlier. Elena was already there, sitting at an outdoor table, a spiral-bound notebook in front of her. She stood when he approached, her expression serious but not hostile. "Thanks for coming," she said, sliding the notebook toward him. "Sophia gave me this months ago. Letters she wrote to you but never sent. She didn't want you to see them, but I think you deserve to." Jake's fingers hovered over the cover. "Letters? Why now?" Elena leaned back. "She's staying with me, trying to figure herself out. But you've been in the dark too long. These aren't excuses, they're the truths she couldn't say out loud." He opened the notebook. The first letter, dated 8 months ago, read, "Jake, you fixed the car today without me asking. You always do that, fix things quietly. I don't know why it makes me so angry. Maybe because I'm breaking, and you don't see it. Page after page, Sophia's words spilled out, her fear of fading, her resentment at his steadiness, her guilt for pushing him away. The final letter, written after the block party where Jake danced with Mia, said, "I saw you tonight, alive in a way I haven't let you be. I don't deserve you, but I'm terrified to lose you." Jake closed the notebook, his throat tight. "She wrote all this and never said a word." Elena nodded. "She thought you'd stay no matter what. When you didn't, it broke her open." He didn't respond, the weight of Sophia's unspoken thoughts settling in. She hadn't cheated, hadn't lied outright, but she'd built a wall of silence, letting him believe he was the problem. The letters didn't erase the hurt, but they gave context, a map of her unraveling he'd never seen. That afternoon, Jake met Sophia at the cafe. She texted, asking for a final conversation, no lawyers, no games. She sat across from him, her hands fidgeting with a coffee cup. "I canceled the hotel," she said, her voice low. "I'm not running anymore." Jake studied her, searching for the woman he'd married 8 years ago. "Why didn't you tell me you were struggling? Why let it explode like that?" "I didn't know how," she admitted. "You were always so together. I felt like I was failing you by not being the same." "You didn't fail me," Jake said, his voice steady. "You shut me out. You made me feel like I wasn't enough, and then you planned to leave without a word." Sophia's eyes dropped. "I know. I'm sorry doesn't fix it, but I mean it." They agreed to a legal separation, no fight, no bitterness. Sophia offered to split their assets evenly, the house, bank accounts, savings. Jake accepted, not out of anger, but because holding on to the pieces of their life felt like clinging to a ghost. They signed the papers that week, a quiet transaction handled over email. Sophia moved to Elena's permanently, starting therapy to face her own shadows. Jake didn't return to the house. He stayed with Liam, throwing himself into work at the high school. Inspired by his own sessions, he launched a mentorship program for students, a space for them to talk about their struggles without judgment. It wasn't a grand gesture, just a way to channel his pain into something that mattered. The kids responded, their trust in him a reminder that he could still build something good. He saw Mia again at a school soccer game, Lucas cheering from the sidelines. She waved him over, offering a bottle of water. "You look better," she said, smiling. "Less like you're carrying the world." "Trying not to," Jake said. They talked about small things, Lucas's new dinosaur obsession, her late-night shifts at the hospital. It wasn't romantic, not yet, but it was honest. Mia didn't push or pull, she simply shared the space, letting Jake be himself. Over time, their coffee meetups became dinners, then walks along South Beach, laughter filling the gaps where his hurt used to live. Sophia sent one final letter, hand-delivered to Liam's apartment. Jake didn't open it right away. He tucked it into the notebook with the others, a chapter he'd read when he was ready. For now, he focused on the present, on the kids at school, on Mia's quiet strength, on the therapy sessions that helped him see he'd been enough all along. As months passed, Jake felt a shift. Not a roaring triumph, but a steady hope. He wasn't defined by Sophia's choices or his own silence. He was rebuilding, step by step, into someone who could stand without breaking. The end of his marriage wasn't a loss. It was a door to a life he hadn't known he could claim.